Hello, everybody. It's GoPats99 here with another season preview and prediction video, this time for the New Orleans Saints. Now, the New Orleans Saints last year, they went 5 and 12. They won 2 games in the first half of the season and then won 3 in the second half of the season, finishing, I want to say, it was either second to last or completely last in the NFC South. Now, that alone tells you that there's something wrong going on in New Orleans. But when you look even deeper, you realize the rabbit hole was even deeper. It all starts at the top with GM Mickey Loomis. Mickey Loomis, he got lucky once. He was able to bring Sean Payton. He was able to bring in Drew Brees. And then he let that go to his head and thinks, oh, I can just do the same thing. The game and the league has changed so much since Mickey Loomis managed to convince Sean Payton and Drew Brees way back in 2006 to come to New Orleans. And ever since then, it's been downhill. I would say the New Orleans Saints made the same mistake the New England Patriots made. You build your franchise around a coach and a quarterback, and once they're gone, you have no backup plan, and you just throw things at the wall and nothing sticks. Because you build your franchise around Drew Brees and Sean Payton, don't build things up for the future, and it all goes awry. Really, the only good draft pick the Saints have even made since then is Chris Olave. Alvin Kamara's worked out pretty well, but he's kind of on the edge of the end of his career. And things haven't really been working out well. Ever since Drew Brees left, you tried Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, that didn't work out for you. You tried Andy Dalton, it didn't work out for you. Then you tried 2 years of Derek Carr, and that didn't work out for you. Derek Carr now retired, and as much as Saints fans do not want to admit this, your best hope for winning the division, because I'm going to call it right now, I think the only way an NFC South team is getting into the playoffs is by winning the NFC South. No other team from the NFC South is getting in other than the division winner. Your only hope of winning the NFC South was with Derek Carr. Now that he's gone, you have no hope. Your best hope was with Derek Carr. Now you're left with second round quarterback Tyler Shook. If I'm even pronouncing that guy's name right, your second round quarterback you took out of Louisville, who wasn't even great in college, by the way. That's another story with how bad Mickey Loomis's drafting is. And it's not been well over in New Orleans. You're stuck with Spencer Rattler I'm assuming Spencer Rattler's going to start day one. Jake Haener maybe is a backup. Aaron Rodgers flat out said he wasn't going to New Orleans because of Mickey Loomis. So yeah, not a really bright future with New Orleans. Now I'm going to try to predict here what I think the New Orleans Saints record is going to be. If you're a New Orleans Saints fan, you're either not going to like what I'm going to say, or you're going to think everything I'm going to say is the truth. But the big thing is that this franchise has been ruined by Mickey Loomis and his terrible executive decisions. And there's even some controversy because most of the fan base wants Mickey Loomis gone. But apparently there's this weird clause in the contract where he's going to be called upon because the owner of the Saints, Gail Benson, is in, I want to say, her mid to late 80s. And has no children. So then somebody would have to come on and sell the team. There's a clause in Mickey Loomis's contract that he's got to be called on to help sell the team once Gail Benson passes away. I don't know for sure. Nobody even really knows for sure what the hell that story is. But it's a clusterfuck in New Orleans that's only going to get worse before it gets better. And if I'm a Saints fan, I'm truly wondering if Mickey Loomis is that guy. Now, the Saints did do some good in the offseason. They got rid of Dennis Allen, who he's probably the best defensive mind in the NFL. But as a head coach, he's among one of the worst in the NFL. You finally get rid of Dennis Allen. You clean house in terms of the coaching staff. Kellen Moore, who helped lead the Eagles to the Super Bowl with their high-powered offense last year, he takes over as head coach. He brings in Brandon Staley, who's another amazing defensive mind. Obviously, you couldn't have Dennis Allen as defensive coordinator because that's just going to create a power struggle. You probably got the next best thing to Dennis Allen in the form of Brandon Staley, except for maybe Aaron Glenn. But you tried to get him as your head coach, but you failed. But but I really would not expect a lot. It's not because I don't think Kellen Moore can't be a good head coach. I think Kellen Moore could possibly be a good head coach. But the roster and the circumstances he has been stuck with in New Orleans is not set up for success in year one. And if I sound grim about the New Orleans Saints' future this year, I'm pretty sure most New Orleans Saints fans that are watching this agree with me in terms of the New Orleans Saints. Now, let's get to the season preview and prediction video part of this thing. Again, we're skipping the preseason. We don't care about the preseason. Really, it's only for the starters to see who's going to start, who's going to stay on the team. Some would even argue it's only for the local economies. Do what you want with that conspiracy theory. But New Orleans Saints open up the season in week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Saints, even in this weird spot where they really haven't been great, they have these weird magic in week 1. So even though I think the Cardinals are better than the Saints, I actually think the Saints will win this game in week 1 against the Cardinals. Unfortunately, though, you have to play the 49ers next, and even though I don't know if I think the 49ers would make the playoffs, I wouldn't necessarily bet on them if I were a betting man, but the 49ers, I think, are a lot more talented. Brock Purdy has turned out a lot better than anybody could have expected Brock Purdy to turn out. Can they get their act back together? That remains to be seen, but I do think the 49ers defeat the Saints in week 2. Then you go on the road to Seattle in week 3. I think you lose that one. And then on the road to Buffalo, I think you probably get crushed by the Bills. Fortunately, after you get crushed by the Bills, you come back home and you play the New York Giants. If there's any team you can expect less from than the Saints, it's the New York Giants. Brian Daboll, I think he's going to be gone after this year. How in the hell was he not gone this year? But he's going to be gone after this year. The only thing you really have looking forward to is Jackson Dart. And even in year 1, that's probably not going to be great. So I think the Saints actually beat the Giants in week 5. Week 6, you face the Patriots. I think the Patriots are a much better put together roster than the Saints. I would definitely trust Drake May over. I assume by this point it's still going to be Spencer Rattler as the quarterback for the Saints, and I would trust Mike Vrabel as head coach before I trust Kellen Moore at this stage in his career. Again, I'm not saying Kellen Moore is going to turn out to be a disappointment. I'm just saying in year 1, I would trust Mike Vrabel more than Kellen Moore. And so I actually think the Saints lose in week 6 to the Patriots. Then you go on the road to Chicago. I don't really trust Caleb Williams in this spot, but I also do trust Ben Johnson more than I would trust Kellen Moore. I actually think Chicago gets the win here. Then you play Tampa Bay at home. I think you lose that one. At Los Angeles, the Rams, I must clarify, there's 2 Los Angeles teams, so I have to say whether it's the Rams or the Chargers. In this case, it's the Rams. I think you lose that one. And then at Carolina, I think you lose that one. I think Carolina, we're going to see a mix of what we saw last year. Bryce Young is definitely better than he was in year 1. But still, I do not know if I can trust the Panthers. But I do think at Carolina you lose. That then brings you to your first bye week. So through the first 10 weeks of the season, I think you go 2-8 with your wins being home against Arizona and home against the New York Giants. But then you come back home, you play the Falcons. I think you lose that one. Michael Penix has a great upside. The wild card here is, can you trust Raheem Moore, or Raheem Morris, I believe his name is, as head coach? But still, I think the Falcons are a lot better than the Saints are going to be this year. I think the Falcons win that one. At Miami, I think you lose that one. I may change this prediction depending on if Tua stays healthy. But if Tua stays healthy, Miami wins this one. At Tampa Bay, I think you lose that one. Week 15, you come back home, you play the Panthers, and this time I think you win. So I think you split the Carolina series here. And then your second consecutive game at home, you're playing against the New York Jets. I think you win that one. But then the last 2 weeks of the season, you're on the road at Tennessee. I think you lose that one. And then to wrap up the season, you're at the Falcons. I think you lose that one as well. And so for the Saints, I think you go 4-13 with your wins being home against Arizona, home against the New York Giants, home against Carolina, and home against the New York Jets. So I think all 4 of your wins are probably going to be at home in the Superdome. I'm not predicting a great start for Kellen Moore, and it's not because I don't have faith in the guy. It's because the organization itself is so terribly run. The roster is not that great. The only guy I would even have faith is going to have a good year is Cam Jordan, or maybe Chris Olave, depending on if he can stay healthy. But I'm not expecting a lot from the Saints with the roster that they have. Now, if Mickey Loomis can finally get his act together after 20 some odd years, then I think the Saints going in the future could do well. But in year one under Kellen Moore, I don't know. Especially when you have a first-year head coach, a GM who has no idea what he's doing, and a roster that's just aging. That's the weakness of the Saints, is that their roster is aging. But anyway, that's my prediction for the Saints. I think I'm going to go back to teams that I would expect a lot from in 2025. Next, I'm actually going to go with the Houston Texans next. Let's keep it with the Deep South here. In the meantime, you can check probably tomorrow. I will have a video out on Roll Tide 99 where I do a prediction for the Clemson Tigers. You can look for the Houston Texans one probably this coming weekend. But anyway, this is Go Pats 99. Subscribe to Go Pats 99, Roll Tide 99, and I'll see you in the next video.